بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وموالاه. Inshallah, continuing with the lesson of Shama'il Tirmidhi. Today inshallah we will be going through باب ما جاء في صفة درع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the chapter on the armor of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam possessed 7 suits of armor. The names of these are Dhatul Fadl. This was one of them because of its size. It was well known by this name, as is mentioned in the books of Hadith. This armor was pawned to a Jew named Abu Sham. Number 2, Dhatul Hawashi. Number 3, Dhatul Wishah. Number 4, Fiddah. Number 5, Sakhdiyya. Number 6, Tabra. Number 7, Gharnagh. 2 ahadith are mentioned in this chapter. See, it's a small chapter. حدثنا أبو سعيد عبد الله بن سعيد الأشجع حدثنا يونس ابن بكير عن محمد بن إسحاق عن يحيى بن عباد بن عبد الله بن الزبير عن أبيه عن جده عبد الله بن الزبير عن الزبير بن عوام رضي الله عنه قال كان على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم أحد درعان فنهض إلى الصخرة فلم يستطع فأقعد طلحة تحته وصعد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى استوى على الصخرة. قال فسمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول أوجب طلحة. This is the first hadith of this chapter. Zubayr ibn Awam radiallahu anh, one of the person who was guaranteed Jannah, relates that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore 2 suits of armor on his Mubarak body in the battle of Uhud. Which 2 were these? Dhatul Fadl and Fiddah 2. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam intended climbing a hill, but since it was huge and due to the heavy weight of the 2 armors and the difficulties he confronted causing his Mubarak face to bleed, as a result he could not do so, meaning he could have climbed the little hill. He therefore requested Talha radiallahu anh to sit and with his aid climb the hill. Zubayr radiallahu anhu said, I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, it has become wajib. What has become wajib for Talha? Awjab Talha. It has become wajib for Talha. What has become wajib for Talha? Jannah, or the intercession of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has become wajib, compulsory for Talha. Talha is also one of the person who was guaranteed Jannah. Talha fil Jannah. The situation of the war in the battle of Uhud was very serious. Some people began to fear that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had passed away. The reason for Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam climbing this hill was that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum could see him being alive. So when he could stand out on top of a hill and be reassured, some of the learned say he climbed the hill to survey the enemy. So whatever the reason, for the betterment, either way. Sayyidina Talha radiallahu anhu very bravely accompanied and protected Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on this day. Whenever the Sahaba radiallahu anhum discussed the battle of Uhud, they said that day belonged to Sayyidina Talha radiallahu anhu. That was the day of Talha. Sayyidina Talha radiallahu anhu shielded Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with his body. He received more than 80 wounds on his body, and yet he did not leave the side of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though his hand became paralyzed. Subhanallah, what love! May Allah give us such love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Amazing. Talha radiallahu anhu, his own body 80 wounds plus his hand is paralyzed, but still he doesn't give up the side of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Moving on to the next hadith. حدثنا ابن أبي عمر حدثنا سفيان بن عيينة عن زيد بن خصيفة عن السائب بن يزيد أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان عليه يوم أحد درعان قد ظاهر بينهما. Sa'ib ibn Yazid radiallahu anhu says, in the battle of Uhud, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore two suits of armor. He wore one over the other. Allah Shaykh Zakaria rahmatullahi writes in the commentary, it was not against tawakkul. Tawakkul meaning having complete reliance, trust in Allah, for Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to wear two armors. Firstly, according to the Sufis, Kamal Suluk, the perfection of seeking, is to return to Bidayah, the beginning. That is, in general, dealings to behave like a common man, just behave like a normal person. Why do you have to show the world that you're so perfect? And the following of the Sharia must become a habit. Secondly, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did these things to teach the ummah. Thirdly, Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, O you who believe, when fighting the non-believers, protect yourself. خُذُوا حِذْرَكُمْ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا خُذُوا حِذْرَكُمْ فَانْفِرُوا ثُبَاتٍ أَوْ انْفِرُوا جَمِيعًا. Protect yourselves against the blows, etc. And also by wearing armors. They do then to fight them come and out singly or collectively as the necessity arrives. This is it, Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse ayah number 71. Therefore, in preparing arms for protection, one will be following the injunctions of the Holy Quran. And who else can obey the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? By this, the use of all forms of protection is intended. So the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a walking to Quran, was a practical Quran. Kana khuluquhu al-Quran. So this was regarding the armor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Moving on to the next chapter, Babu ma jaa fi sifati mighfari Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Chapter on the helmet of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A helmet is a hat made of steel to protect the head in war. The author, Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullahi, has quoted two hadith in this chapter. حدثنا قتيبة بن سعيد حدثنا مالك بن أنس عن ابن شهاب عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم دخل مكة وعليه مغفر فقيل له هذا ابن خطل متعلق بأستار الكعبة فقال اقتلوه. Anas radiallahu anhu says, reports, on the day of when Mecca was conquered, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore a helmet. When they entered the city, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam removed the helmet after being satisfied that everything was under control. Someone came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, O Messenger of Allah, this Ibn Khatal is holding the cover, ghilaf, the cloth, black cloth of the Kaaba. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, kill him. What is the explanation? Shaykh Zakaria rahmatullahi writes in the commentary, when Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered Makkah Mukarramah as a conqueror, the people of Makkah became frightened. There was no place to live, nor a path to walk. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is well known for being merciful and generous, announced that the person who enters the house of Allah, Kaaba, was safe, and those who remained in their houses were also safe. The one who laid down his arms was also safe. They were 11 men and 6 women whose crimes could not be forgiven because of the crimes that they had committed was so major that even the mercy of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that this is a bit too much now. These people need to be taught a lesson. So there were 11 men and 6 women. These people were not included in the general amnesty. It was announced that there was no mercy for these people. Among these criminals, 7 men and 2 women embraced Islam. Subhanallah. Criminals became Muslim and were pardoned. The remaining 4 men and 4 women were killed. Ibn Khatal was one of the 8 that were punished. He first came to Medina Munawwara, where he accepted Islam and kept the name Abdullah. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent him to a tribe to collect zakat. He killed a Muslim slave just because he had not prepared meals on time. A hungry man is an angry man. So he didn't give him food on time, so they killed him. Fearing that if he returned to Medina Munawwara, he would be punished by death. You take somebody's life, well, you have qisas. He became a mu'tad, apostate, and went to Makkah Mukarramah. In Makkah, he used to abuse Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He purchased 2 slave girls who sang songs in which Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was satirized, meaning he was insulted. This made him feel happy. For this reason, despite of entering the Baytullah Kaaba, he was killed. He was holding the ghilaf, the black cloth of the Kaaba, still he was killed. There are many versions according to the muhaddithin as to who the person was that killed him. A fiqhi masla may also arise from this hadith, that punishment and revenge is permissible in the haram. There's a difference of opinion. The question needs a lengthy explanation, and there is no need for it here, because this is not a book of fiqh, this is a book of Shama'il, so it's beyond the point. It is omitted to keep the subject matter brief. These matters are referred to so that those who love to acquire knowledge, and also students, after reading it, will seek more information from the mashayikh. So then we need to go into a lesson of hadith, lesson of fiqh, to learn these things, if you have the zeal to seek knowledge. From this we also find a question of entering Makkah Mukarramah without ihram, which is discussed in the hadith that follows. So it's coming in the next hadith, so you don't need to worry. Next hadith. حدثنا عيسى ibn أحمد حدثنا عبد الله ibn وهب حدثني مالك ابن أنس عن ابن شهاب عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم دخل مكة عام الفتح وعلى رأسه المغفر. قال فلما نزعه جاءه رجل فقال ابن ختل متعلق بأستار الكعبة فقال اقتلوه. قال ابن شهاب وبلغني أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يكن يومئذ محرما. It is stated from Anas radiallahu anhu that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when entering Makkah as a conqueror, wore a helmet on his Mubarak, blessed head. After he had removed it, a person came and said, O Prophet of Allah, O Messenger of Allah, Ibn Khatal is clinging to the cloth of the Kaaba, ghilaf. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, he is not of the ones who have been granted amnesty, kill him. Ibn Shihab Zuhri rahmatullah alayhi says, I have been informed that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was not in the state of ihram. So now we have a question. So Shaykh Zakir rahmatullah alayhi is explaining, the last sentence in the above hadith by Imam Zuhri refers to a fiqhi mas'ala, fiqhi matter. According to the Hanafis, it is not permissible to enter Makkah Mukarramah without ihram, because it is mentioned in the hadith that it is not permissible to cross the miqat boundary without wearing ihram. On the strength of the above hadith, the Shafi'i say it is permissible. So because of this hadith, the Shafi'i says it is permissible. According to the hadith, to the Hanafis, this hadith cannot be used as an argument because the prohibition was specially lifted for Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on this particular occasion. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi and others have quoted narration wherein Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, "This was permissible for me today." What was permissible? Me not wearing ihram, and not for any other person. So it was a special khususiyya, speciality of the Prophet ﷺ. It may be also possible that Ibn Khatal went to hold the cover cloth of the Kaaba to repent and make supplication. Since he knew that there was no amnesty for him, he remembered all his past deeds, turning apostate, and all that he had committed since. He may have done this to make a supplication, and these people also venerated and respected the Kaaba. The simplest explanation seems to be that according to the old custom, he may have hoped for an amnesty. So his intention may not have been to make tawbah, his intention is just to get protection and get out of the situation. Because of the sanctity and reverence of the Kaaba, criminals were not killed in this state. But because he was amongst those people whose crimes were so major that even this could not give him amnesty. So this was regarding the helmet of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inshallah we'll move on to the next chapter as well. Babu ma ja'a fi imamati Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The chapter regarding the turban of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Turban. The length of the turban of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has not been given in the well-known ahadith. How long was it? We don't know. In a narration from Tabarani, 7 dhira' arm's length have been mentioned. Bayjuri has related from Ibn Hajar that this hadith has no origin. Allama Jazari rahmatullahi says, I studied the books of Seerah, meaning the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the history, but I found no mention of any length. It is related from Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had 2 turbans. One was a small one, the length of which was 6 dhira' cubits according to Munawi, and 7 dhira' according to Mullah Ariqari. The long one was 12 dhira'. The author of Madkhal mentions that the length of the turban of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was 7 dhira'. He did not mention any other size. It was a continuous sunnah to wear this turban. Continuous sunnah. Sunnah mustamirra. It has been related that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered the wearing of the turban. He said, wear an imama, turban, regularly, for it increases one's hilm, gentleness. This is in Fathul Bari, the commentary of Bukhari. So continue wearing a turban, it increases one's hilm, gentleness. Subhanallah. Someone inquired from Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, is it sunnah to wear an imama, turban? He replied, yes, it is sunnah. Aini rahmatullahi, Allama Aini rahmatullahi has narrated this. In one hadith it is stated that a turban should be worn regularly, for it is a sign of Islam. It distinguishes between a Muslim and a non-Muslim. This is also by Allama Aini, Umdad al-Qari. The author has mentioned 5 ahadith in this chapter. So inshallah we'll go through these 5 hadith and the commentary. May Allah grant all of us the understanding. May Allah grant all of us the ability to follow the sunnah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. حدثنا محمد بن بشار حدثنا عبد الرحمن ابن المهدي عن حماد بن سلمة وحدثنا محمود بن غيلان حدثنا وكيع عن حماد عن سلمة حماد بن سلمة عن أبي الزبير عن جابر رضي الله عنه قال دخل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مكة يوم الفتح وعليه عمامة سوداء. Subhanallah. What a scene that would have been. Jabir radiallahu anhu reports that when Makkah was conquered, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered the city wearing a black turban. Black turban. The hadith seems to contradict the previous hadith, wherein it is mentioned, stated that Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore a helmet and entered Mecca. In reality, there is no difference. It is not impossible to wear a turban on a helmet. So you can wear a helmet and you can put a turban on top of it. Both ahadith can be summed up easily. Some ulama say that when he entered Mecca, he wore a helmet. As soon as he removed the helmet, he wore a turban. So no contradiction again. Since the time was appropriate, that is why in the narration, the time of entry is mentioned. They don't mention before or after or while, they just mention at the occasion. Some ulama are of the opinion that because a metal head cover may have been troublesome, he may have worn a turban beneath it. So to make it easy, he may have worn the turban on top together, or maybe took one off and wore the other one, or wore the turban and then he wore the helmet. Whatever the situation is. Hazrat Shaykh Khabbaab has mentioned it, explained it really beautifully. Moving on to the next hadith, حدثنا ابن أبي عمر حدثنا سفيان عن مساور والراق عن جعفر ابن عمرو عن حريث عن أبيه قال رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رأيت على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إمامة سوداء. Umar ibn Hurayth radiyallahu anhu says, I had seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wear a black turban. In Sahih Muslim and Nasa'i, Sayyidina Umar ibn Hurayth radiyallahu anhu says that scene is still before my eyes. Subhanallah. When Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reciting the khutbah on the mimbar, he wore a black turban on his Mubarak blessed head, and its shamla, the end portion of the turban, was between his shoulders. So it wasn't on his shoulders, it was between his shoulders. Subhanallah. Shamla, the back portion. Subhanallah. What a amazing scene that would have been. Sahaba, they used to take pleasure out of mentioning these narrations. May Allah grant all of us the understanding and give us the ability to follow these examples. Moving on to the next hadith, حدثنا محمود بن غيلان ويوسف بن عيسى قال حدثنا وكيع مساور الوراق عن جعفر بن عمرو عن حريث عن أبيه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خطب الناس وعليه عمامة سوداء. Umar ibn Hurayth radiyallahu anhu says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was once reciting the khutbah and there was a black turban, imama, on his blessed head, Mubarak head. According to well-known sayings, his khutbah was at the time when Makkah Mukarramah was conquered. It was given from the threshold of the Kaaba door. So he was by the Kaaba door. He has been mentioned in the previous ahadith by Sayyidina Jabir radiallahu anh, because in some ahadith relating to the incident, it has been mentioned that the khutbah was delivered from a mimbar, pulpit, whereas the khutbah at the time of the conquest of Makkah, when Makkah was conquered, was not given from a mimbar, pulpit. Some say that this incident did not take place in Makkah Mukarramah but at Medina Munawwara on a Friday. In some ahadith it is also mentioned that this was a Friday khutbah. Mullah Ali Qari rahmatullahi had written in the commentary of Mishkat from Miraq Shah that this khutbah was delivered before Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, and Allah knows best. So Allah knows the reality. حدثنا هارون بن إسحاق الحمداني حدثنا يحيى بن محمد المديني عن عبد العزيز بن محمد عن عبيد الله بن عمر عن نافع عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنه قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا اعتم سدل إمامته بين كتفيه. قال نافع وكان ابن عمر فعل ذلك. قال عبيد الله ورأيت القاسم بن محمد وسالما يفعلان ذلك. Subhanallah, what love they had for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah grant us the love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu reports that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam fastened an imama turban, i'tamma. Whenever he fastened the imama, he used to put the shamla in the end portion between his shoulders, i.e. he used to put it on the back. Nafi' says that I had seen Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu do it in the same manner, following Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ubaidullah, who is a student of Nafi', says, in my time the grandson of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Qasim ibn Muhammad, and the grandson of Umar radiallahu anhu, Salim ibn Abdullah, did the same. Emulate Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, copy Rasulullah. The practice of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in putting the shamla, back end portion of the turban, varied. He usually left a shamla on the turban. Yeah. Some ulama have gone as far as to say that he never wore a turban without a shamla. So he always had a shamla, the back end. The muhaqqiqeen, research scholars say that sometimes he did not leave a shamla. When wearing a turban, he observed different practices with the shamla. He sometimes left it on the right front shoulder, sometimes on the back between the shoulder, sometimes the two ends of the shamla were left as a shamla. Allama Munawi rahmatullahi says, although all methods are mentioned, the best and the most correct is to leave it between the shoulders on the back. That is the most correct. Subhanallah. All these different practices, but this is the best one. And the final hadith of this chapter, حدثنا يوسف بن عيسى حدثنا وكيع حدثنا أبو سليمان وهو عبد الرحمن بن الغسيل عن إكرمة عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ختم الناس وعليه عمامة دسماء. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu reports Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was once reciting the khutbah, delivering the khutbah. He was wearing a black turban on an oily strip of cloth. This was before Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. It was his last sermon. After this, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not ascend the mimbar nor recited the khutbah. In this khutbah, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam specially stressed the privileges of and consideration for the Ansar. He counted their virtues and kind favors, and also requested that the one that was chosen as an Amir should give special attention to the needs of the Ansar. At that time, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a severe headache, for which reason he might have fastened a strip of cloth. Also since the hair of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to be oiled regularly, which is mentioned in the ensuing chapters, the strip may have been oily for this reason. So it could be either he had a headache or either he was really oily, that's why he had a strip. His habit of wearing a black turban is well known. The ulama have given two meanings of a black turban. Some have translated it as black colored turban, and some say it is an oily strip of cloth. Both are correct, as it can have both meanings. One narrator of this hadith is Ibn al-Ghasil. Who is Ibn al-Ghasil? Who is from the children of Sayyidina Hanzala radiallahu anh, Hanzala, who was bathed by the Malaika, Ghasil al-Malaika, that was his title, angels. We know the incident, it is in Fadail al-Amal, Hikayat al-Sahaba, Malaika, which means that the one bathed by the angels. There is a thought-provoking incident regarding this. When the call for the battle of Uhud was announced and the army was beginning to leave, he was having relations with his wife. In this state, he heard the call for war and heard the army leaving for the battlefield. He left everything at that moment and joined the army. He did not have a chance to do ghusl have a bath. He was martyred in the battlefield. Because a shaheed martyr is not given ghusl, he too was not given ghusl, a bath. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, saw the angels, malaika, giving him a bath, bathing him. He made inquiries. On returning to Medina Munawwara, he was informed by his wife of the condition. Truly, these people gave them their lives for the sake of the deen, as willingly as we would today fulfill our passions, and in which we are so heavily engrossed. We would do anything to fulfill our own passions. These people did anything to fulfill the call for deen, the sacrifices for deen. Inshallah, before we finish, I will just read through the khulasa. Khulasa is like a conclusion of Shama'il. Point is very nice, pointed out. So on each chapter there is only one point. Regarding the armor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would wear armor in battle. In the battle of Uhud, he wore two coats of armor, one on top of the other, like as we read. Regarding his helmet, he also wore a helmet. It is what is worn to cover the head under the cap. He entered Mecca on the day when it was being conquered, and he was wearing it. Now that we went through the detail. Regarding the turban, Imam of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he entered Mecca Mukarramah wearing a black turban. He wore it for the sermon khutbah. When he wore a turban, he would keep the ends of the turban between his shoulders, meaning at the back. There are different narrations as we read, on top, on the side, but the best is to leave it at the back. He delivered a sermon wearing an oily band on his head, i.e., its color was stained with grease, because he used to have a lot of oil on his noble head. So this is the chapter regarding the Imam of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was his continuous practice. We should try to make it part of our practice as well. May Allah grant us the understanding. Like we learned in this hadith, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdullah ibn Umar saw him, he used to do the same. Salim, Qasim ibn Muhammad saw, so they also continued in the footsteps. The reason we go through this, that we also follow that footstep, that same footstep in this life. If we follow that same lifestyle, will take us to Jannah. May Almighty Allah make that a reality. Ameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala rasulina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.